Good Wednesday morning. Once again, I'm speaking to you from the side yard area here of our little rented place here in Sacramento. And it's such a beautiful, beautiful day that I just couldn't resist dragging the computer out here and finishing up Aleister Crowley's wonderful essay on duty. And yesterday, from the parking lot of Sprouts Market, we went through the first two sections. And just to remind you, the full title of the essay, which you can get anywhere, including off of the OTO USA website. Duty, a note on the chief rules of practical conduct to be observed by those who accept the law of Thelema. Now, I know that all of you watching this video might be totally unfamiliar with the philosophical the philosophy of Thelema, and what this "do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law" is all about. And so you might want to dig into that a little more to make these last couple days' talks make a little more sense to you. But liberally using quotes from the Book of the Law, Crowley comments on your duty to yourself, which we read yesterday, your duty to other individual men and women, which we read yesterday, and today it's your duty to mankind. And the heading of it is, or the simple answer for your duty to mankind is number 1. And it's the only one. Establish the law of Thelema as the sole basis of conduct. And here's what he has to say about that. The general welfare of the race being necessary in many respects to your own, that well-being, like your own, principally a function of the intellect, a function of the intelligent and wise observance of the law of Thelema. It is of the very first importance that you, I'm going to start this all over again because I'm not used to this natural light. The general welfare of the race being necessary in many respects to your own, that well-being, like your own, principally a function of the intelligent and wise observance of the law of Thelema. It is of the very first importance to you that every individual should accept frankly that law and strictly govern himself in accordance therewith. You may regard the establishment of the law of Thelema as an essential element to your true will, since whatever the ultimate nature of that will, the evident condition of putting it into execution is freedom from external interference. Governments, now remember Crowley was writing this in probably the first half of the 20th century. Governments too often exhibit the most deplorable stupidity. However enlightened may be the men who compose and constitute them, or the people whose destinies they direct. It is therefore incumbent on every man and woman to take the proper steps to cause the revisions of all existing statutes on the basis of the law of Thelema. This law being the law of liberty. The aim of the legislature must be to secure the amplest freedom for each individual in the state, eschewing the presumptuous assumption that any given positive ideal is worthy to be obtained. So, the quote from the Book of the Law on that comment is, "The word of sin is restriction." He goes on to say, "The essence of crime is that it restricts the freedom of the individual outraged. Thus, murder restricts his right to live, robbery his right to enjoy the fruits of his labor, coining his right to the guarantee of the state that he shall barter in security. It is then the common duty to prevent crime by segregating the criminal, and by the threat of reprisals, also to teach the criminal that his acts, being analyzed, are contrary to his own true will. This may often be accomplished by taking from him the right which he has denied to others, as by outlawing the thief so that he feels constant anxiety for the safety of his own possessions, removed from the ward of the state. The rule is quite simple. He who violated any right declares magically that it does not exist, therefore no longer does so for him. Crime being a direct spiritual violation of the law of Thelema, it should not be tolerated in the community. Those who possess the instinct should be segregated in a settlement to build up a state of their own, so to learn the necessity of themselves imposing and maintaining the rule of justice. I digress to say, that sounds good, Crowley, but I'm not sure that that's actually going to happen. Anyway, this is not a Class A document. I can digress if I want. All artificial crimes should be abolished. When fantastic restrictions disappear, the greater freedom of the individual will itself teach him to avoid acts which really restrict natural rights. Real crime will diminish automatically. So, artificial crimes. The administration of the law should be simplified by training men of uprightness and discretion, whose will is to fulfill this function in the community, to decide all complaints by the abstract principle of the law of Thelema, and to award judgment on the basis of the actual restriction caused by the offense. The ultimate aim is thus to reintegrate conscience on true scientific principles as the warden of conduct, the monitor of the people, and the guarantee of their governments. The third one, or the number D, or letter D, your duty to all other beings and things. And the statement is simply apply the law of Thelema to all problems of fitness, use, and development. It's a violation of the law of Thelema to abuse the natural qualities of any animal or object by diverting it from its proper function, as determined by consideration of its history and structure. Thus, to train children to perform mental operations or to practical tasks for which they are unfitted, it is a crime against nature. Remember, Crowley was writing this in the days before there were child labor laws. He was writing truly from another era, almost another universe of societal reality. Similarly, to build houses of rotten material, to adulterate food, to destroy forests, etc., is to offend. The law of Thelema is to be applied unflinchingly to decide every question of conduct. The inherent fitness of anything for any proposed use should be the sole criterion. Apparent and sometimes even real conflict between interests will frequently arise. Such cases are to be decided by the general value of the contending parties in the scale of nature. Thus, a tree has a right to its life. But a man being more than a tree, he may cut it down for fuel or shelter when need arises. He may cut it down for fuel or shelter when need arises. Even so, let him remember that the law never fails to avenge infraction, as when wanton deforestation has ruined a climate or a soil, or as when importation of rabbits for a cheap supply of food has created a plague. Observe that the violation of the law of Thelema produces cumulative ills. The drain of the agricultural population to big cities, due chiefly to persuading them to abandon their natural ideals, has not only made the country less tolerable to the peasant, but debauched the town. And the error tends to increase in geometrical progression until the remedy has become almost inconceivable and the whole structure of society is threatened with ruin. The wise application, based on observation and experience of the law of Thelema, is to work in conscious harmony with evolution. Experiments in creation involving variation from existing types are lawful and necessary. Their value is to be judged by their fertility as bearing witness to their harmony with the course of nature toward perfection. Wow. Now, I'm not sure how Crowley actually thought in a practical way the law of Thelema is going to deal with the prison population and things like that. We'll just have to think. But he brought up subjects in the early 20th century that are really plaguing us today, right down to deforestation and his mention of things like that. It's a wonderful essay. I can't say that I totally grasp how what he said then is actually going to be applied today. But my understanding of the law of Thelema is just that. My understanding of the law of Thelema. And this essay on duty is one of the best things that, and wisest things that Crowley has said. So if you want to find it, go to the OTO USA website, and there's a thing that says library, and there's all sorts of wonderful things you can download and print out yourself, and be relatively assured that they are as free as mistakes and typos as anything published by Crowley. And that's something that sadly can't be said for everything you might download from the internet. So anyway, that's it. I'm not sure I've got enough battery power even to say goodbye here, but I wanted to come out in the backyard and do this. So I know it's a little short today, but I'm going to take the computer back into the house now. So anyway, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will.